We kind of need to talk. Okay, seriously, this project is needing some decision making to be done. Today's video is going to be a short one, and it's more just to bring you up to speed with where I am, because I haven't been filming every single little thing that I've been doing, purely because I don't get to spend large amounts of time on the car. You know, I get an hour here, hour there, a little bit after work, and more just to fill you in on where I'm going with the project and where I am at right now. So one of the biggest decisions that I've had to make so far is wiring. Really, there's only two options. It's OEM or aftermarket. I've decided to go with the OEM, and the reasons are I've already got it and it's plug and play. So everything's done, everything's already wired up. It's just a point of rerouting all the wires, connecting everything up again exactly as it was in the TT, and everything should work. The other option, the standalone, is a lot more expensive, and it's also the time that it takes to get everything working, if you can get everything working. The time that it takes to program the ECUs. Now you need to get the car in the dyno, have it tuned. You need to program the gearbox shifts, getting that to work right. I can see that eventually I'll more than likely end up with a standalone system, but for now, as I say, I don't have that much time to work on the car, so I just like to get as much progress as fast as possible. So with the standard wiring, I started off with everything lying on the floor, and I thought, well, let me see how much of it I can get going and what I can connect to with the VCDS. And I spent a whole weekend trying to find a fault. I couldn't read the ECU and I couldn't read the gearbox. I could read literally everything else, from headlights to airbags to everything else except for the ECU and the gearbox. And it was a simple mistake. The grounding wire from the ECU to the negative, I just used a simple cable, and the voltage drop over the cable was too high. But to find that problem took me so long, like it took me the weekend. But when I finally found it, it was awesome. So everything's working on that. I can see everything on the VCDS. I've stripped out, so far I've only stripped out the airbags and the radio, and then just a few sensors like headlight sprayers and just a few bits here and there. Otherwise I've got everything else. I've got electric windows, I've got central locking, I've got the alarm system. So this box has got everything that I've stripped out. It doesn't look like much, but it's all the airbag wiring, all the stereo wiring, and a few sensors. So one of the things that really helped was when I was stripping the car, I labeled everything, and then I knew what each wire was. If I didn't do that, this job would have taken quadruple the amount of time. The other thing that I did that really helped was print off a wiring diagram, and then just to go and label what each component is, instead of having to look back onto the list where each wire goes. And then you can follow each wire and see what it is on the wiring harness. They've made it really so much easier to thin the wiring harness out when I was stripping it. If you're working on wiring, you have to get a wiring diagram. So there's definitely pros and cons to each side. But for now, I'm going with the OEM. I've already started putting it into place. Another big decision that I have to make is, well, I've kind of made it, is the ABS. Initially, I was so set on no ABS. I'm going to go with twin master cylinders and no ABS system. And the more I look into it, the way the ABS integrates in with the DSG gearbox, the advantages of the ABS, obviously, you get ESP as well, electronic stability, so cornering, prevents oversteer, understeer. The more I look into this, the more appealing it's becoming. Yes, it's a bit more work. There's a few issues that I need to sort out. I don't want to go assisted. That's the biggest issue that I have right now. Will the Willwood cylinders be compatible? I know they don't like the hammering of the ABS, but really, how often are you going to be on the ABS? I'm not going to be on a track every weekend. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try the Willwood master cylinders into the ABS. The other issue is the sensors. Because I'm not using the original Audi TT hubs, I don't have the sensor ring. I don't know if these hubs are compatible with the Audi's sensors, so that's something that I still need to look into. But for now, I've started on the steering column. I'll show you what was involved in getting the steering column working. Remember, that's the power steering from an Opel Corsa, which then ties into the controls of the Audi TT. So let me show you that first. So I've removed the steering column from the Audi TT. This is the adjustable section which has the clutches. These clutches here engage that clutch, and this arm here is what goes through, and this is the lever that you lift and lower, and then you can adjust the angle and the forwards and backwards of the steering wheel. So that I've removed, that I'm not going to be using. And this section here, I've now cut it off here and I've trimmed the little section out. That I'm not going to be using. What I'm going to be using is these two parts. So these two are from the TT. Then on the power steering side, this comes out of a Opel or a Vauxhall, we call them Corsas here. So what makes this whole thing work is that this part here is on a spline and it can be smacked off. So once you've taken this off, I'm now going to cut this piece here off, which has got the spline. I'm then going to shorten this, and I'm going to weld this spline onto the shaft. That'll enable the Audi TT shaft to go onto the Corsa power steering, and then this sleeve here is going to go over the top. So the next thing to do is to weld the two pivot points back on here so that I can still have adjustment on the steering. So I'll only have up and down motion, I won't have forwards and backwards. This is what's left of the pivot mechanism from the Corsa. This mechanism here is what allows the steering to tilt up and down. That goes on over there like that. And this mechanism, well, this tube was onto that mechanism. So I've cut it off. I'm now going to shorten it and take off until there's about 5 millimeters left here, so that this tube will go directly onto there. I'll then trim this piece off, and then going into the TT column, this tube will slide in until that is flush with that, and then this sits over there like that, and then it all gets welded together. And then I'll probably put 2 holes here just to tack this tube on either side, just so that there's definitely no movement in it once it's been welded. After that, it's then to calculate the length of the shaft. The shaft here fits like that, and then we just need to calculate, once all of this is together, which is going to be something like that, where this pin here must sit. That's next. Okay, so I've just cut that off there. So now this shaft needs to fit in there. What are the chances of it fitting in there? What are the chances of a Corsa shaft fitting into the Audi shaft? Well, there you go. So now what I've got to do is cut that off and weld it on. And there we go. Conversion is pretty much done. on the accelerator pedal, the one thing that I still need to do is just draw an interface plate that'll fit here, which I'll then weld to the body, and then this pedal can simply bolt onto that. So the pedal is a very simple install. Another thing that I need to do is to install the gear selector. With the OEM I don't have a choice. With a standalone I could get away without having to install it. But for now I'll just need to make up a bracket, sink that in a little bit and get that installed. Okay, I did say it's just going to be a short vid just to catch up on where I'm at. I'm going to carry on with the wiring, continue to get the routing where I want the wires to go. Got a little bit of painting to do. That's the problem with living at the coast. Any bare metal just starts to get surface rust. So I just want to clean up a few spots, get some red oxide on, and that's it. See you in the next one.